Welcome back to another session on database concepts and Oracle. I'm Manibhushan D'Souza, Assistant Professor in the Computer Science Department at Dr. P. Dayananda Pai, P. Satish Pai, GFGC, Mangalore. In the previous classes, we were looking at file system. We have seen what are the disadvantages of using file system. Now let's look at how the data is being represented in the database. So far, we are very familiar with the concept of databases, and we know that a database is a collection of interrelated data. And when we talk about the DBMS system, it consists of set of programs that allows us to access or modify these data. Now, one of the important use of a database management system is to provide the user with the appropriate data they are interested in. We know that data is a collection of a database is a collection of interrelated data. That means if you take the database of any organization, it will be a collection of all the data that the organization possesses. And this is going to be a very large data. To give you an analogy, just imagine the database of our own Mangalore University. Now, the Mangalore University is not only having BSc courses, it has BCA courses, MSc, MCA, MA, MCom, BA, BCom, MBA, the library sciences, the other courses that you can think of is the law, that is social works, and so on and so forth, and MBBSc, and maybe other medical related courses, as well as engineering courses, and so on and so forth. Now, if you take any university for that matter, there will be a large number of students, and all the details of the students will be stored in the database. When I say that the data of the student, I mean to say that the students' personal information, like their name, phone number, their parents' phone number, their parent address, their permanent address, this is one set of data. Apart from that, what the students has done during the course, that is their marks, their performance related informations will be stored. Along with that, the student is participating in any sports or any other extracurricular activities, that information will also be stored. It is not the end of it. The information about all the faculties who are teaching from various departments, that also will be stored. Now, at least you can get the idea. What do I mean by saying the database is a collection of interrelated data? So this data that we are talking about is a very huge data, and not everybody is really interested in looking at all the data. One of the major thing that a database management system should do is to provide the users with the required information. In other words, it must provide an abstract view of the data to the users. To give you an analogy, just look at your mobile phone. Now, you are not interested in all the electronics that is working behind your mobile phone. You are interested in the buttons which are there on your mobile, maybe on the corner side or on the bottom side, and how to use them, and maybe how to use the different gesture on your touch screen. But if you give that same mobile to the service center, that service center person may be interested in all the circuits, the battery, and the other components which are there on your mobile. But if you take one of the chip which is there on the circuit and give it to a chip developer who is manufacturing the chip, they may be interested in the details about that chip. Or if you take the battery and then give it to somebody who is manufacturing battery, they may be interested in the real details of that particular battery. In other words, the mobile that you are carrying is hiding all the details within inside, all the complexities which are inside, and it is showing you something that you really want to see. In other words, what you see is an abstract view that is, uh, or in other words, the details that are hidden. So we call it as an abstract view of the mobile. The same way, you may have a lot of data in your organization, and there may be a lot of complicated things, how it is stored, where it is stored, what is the relationship between the different data items, but not everybody is interested in knowing about it. Now, my video, you are looking at it from the YouTube. So you connected to the YouTube, and maybe you have a phone or the PC, and you are able to watch it. Now, this, in order to watch that thing, a stream of packets has to reach your machine. Now, this is a complicated procedure. If you have studied about the networking, this is again a complicated thing. Now, you are not interested in all those things. You just want to get an abstract of the details. In other words, you just want to view what you really wanted to see. The same thing is true if I take the analogy with the database. The system must hide certain levels of details about how the data is stored and how the data is getting maintained, so that the users could see a simplified data, and they can interact with the database system. So I am very sure that you have studied about the operating system in your previous semester, and when you studied about the operating system, you know very well the operating system is a very complex thing. It manages the memory, it manages the resources, and so on and so forth. But how many of you really knew about this when you were using your Android phone, which has a Android OS which is running on top of it? So we are not interested in all the complication that is there in our phone. So we are only interested in using it. So as an user, you want the things to happen. In the same way, there is a database that contains a lot of data, and not all of them are really interested in knowing about the data which is there in the database. So database system must hide the complexity from the user, and this complexity, that is this hiding of the complexity, depends on who is using it. Let me give you the same analogy. So there are many people who are using it. One is the person who is the user of the mobile. The other person is the service center person who is going to repair the component if it is broken. The third one is the chip manufacturer, or maybe this PCB manufacturer who is interested in something else. So when you look at the database, there are different levels of users, and the topmost level of the user is the one that is the general user, who is not really interested in all the complications which are there in the bottom layer. So there is going to be several levels of abstraction. Hope you know the idea of abstraction. Abstraction is nothing but hiding the details. So at different levels, you are exposed out to the complexity of the database. Now, I hope everybody has seen the video, the aerial view of the videos, wherein the persons who will jump out of the helicopter, and who will do all the circus before they reach down to the earth. You might have seen those videos. So when they jump out of the plane, what they see is not the details. They will just see the aerial view at 20,000 maybe miles on top of the surface of the earth. Now, that view is an abstract view. You can't see the person who, you can't see the cars, you can't see the other things. I hope everybody has used the Google Maps and other things. When you look at the maps in the Google, as you zoom out, you see more and more details. So if you just take the Google map, and if you just type India, you're going to see only the map of the India. Now then if you try to zoom out, you will see the Karnataka. Again you zoom out, you are going to see within Karnataka there are different districts are there. And if you come to Dakshina Kannada and then Mangalore, again if you zoom out, you will see more and more. So all these details are there. If you look at the Google map, and if you look at the details of India alone, the Karnataka is there, Mangalore is there, Dakshina Kannada, everything is there, but that is not shown. So that is what is called as an abstraction. So abstraction is nothing but hiding the details. Now let's look at the different levels of abstraction which are there in the database system. By the way, this question was asked in the year 2016 for 5 marks. Write the different data abstraction layer which are there in the database. Now let's come to the different levels of abstraction. There are totally 3 levels of abstractions are there. The bottommost and most complicated one is the physical level. Then we have the abstraction at the next higher level, and that is the logical. And the last one is the view level. So altogether 3 levels will be there: the view level abstraction, the logical level abstraction, and the physical level abstraction. You know very well this physical level abstraction, in the diagram you can see, is the lowest level of abstraction. In this level we are really interested in all the finer details. So if you are manufacturing the mobile phone, manufacturing, not the using the mobile phone, if you are manufacturing, then you have to know the individual component, where are they going to be placed, how they are going to be connected, and all these details in the case of mobile. And in case of your databases, this is the level that interacts with the operating system on which your database will be running. So you must know how the things are being placed within your hardware gadget. So this is the physical level describes the complex low level structure. Finally, now you have the data, you have everything. So student data is there, their marks are there, their address is there, their parent address is there. How are you going to store them on your disk? So finally on your disk, how it is being stored, this detail is the place where you see the physical level. It is like in your Google map, you're coming directly to the Mangalore and you are looking at the Mangalore map with all the buildings and all the structures and so on and so forth, of the roads, the trees, and everything, the final touch. Okay, so in physical level we are interested in how the files are organized. So there are different ways in which we can store it. Okay, the data. So how the data is actually stored in the file? Is it continuous? Is it like a block? You are you storing it in blocks, or are you storing it continuously in a file? How do you store it? What is the data structure that is used to store the data? Now you are all of you are familiar with the C programming, and in C programming you have used this very simple concept called as a structures, wherein you created some structures. Hope you remember that. And in that you created structures and union. Hope everybody remembers that. So what are the fields which will be there in this structure? Suppose if you are storing it in a C programming language, that is the concept. So in physical level we are interested in the data structure that are used, as well as how many indexes will be there for the different data. Now again, for those who are not knowing what is an index, if you take any book, a textbook or any other, not your notebook, the mostly the printed material, the last pages will have something called as index. In that they will write something like say dbms and followed by some numbers. So everybody knows that. Some of you don't know that. So I have to explain this one. So some of you may be thinking, what is this he's explaining? But there are many who don't know what is the meaning of what is the use of that index. So this index, what it does is the number that is written in front of it is actually the page number where that word dbms is appearing. So if you look at the, suppose if I want to read about dbms, I don't have to go from the front side of the page. I can go to the last indexes. There I can search for the keyword dbms, and this word dbms is found in the page number 64. Something about the dbms is written in the page number 64. Something about it is written in the page number 563. Something about it is written in the page number 23. So using the index, I can quickly go and get the information. Same idea is used in the database. If you create an index, you can quickly get the data. So how many levels of index must be there? How many different indexes should be there? These are all discussed in the physical level. So physical level also describes the method that is used to access the data. Are you accessing the data in a sequentially? Again, I'm not very sure whether you have learnt about file systems. File systems are nothing but your cassette player. Hope everybody, at least some of you, have seen that in olden days we had something called as a cassettes. So this cassettes, now nobody is using that cassette. Now this cassette has a tape. So it had a tape that used to run from this and it used to wind on the other side. Now the tape from here will come and wind on the other side, and there was a reading head which used to read the song. So when you play it, the cassette will move from one direction to the other, and once one direction is over, turn the cassette on the other way, other direction, and play it in the other direction. This is how the tape was working. However, one thing you must notice about this tape is the tape that you see here had a linear structure. That means if you're at the third song, if you're playing at the third song, after the finishing of the third song, fourth song will come. So it is linear. So if you take this is the first song, once the first song is over, the second song will come. After that, third will come, and so on and so forth. This is a sequential access. However, you have studied about the disk, and you know very well disk is a random access. You can go to any position in the disk and quickly access it. So should I store the data in sequentially or in a random access, and how do I maintain the indexes, whether it is b-tree or other thing? What must be the size? How many times this record will be read and written? For example, your marks details will be read at least for every semester, because for every semester you will have to change some, either the some marks has to be updated or the new marks has to be added. So this marks details which is there has to be accessed once in every semester. What about your attendance register? Attendance register has to be accessed every day, because every day we are taking attendance, and not only that, every hour we are taking the attendance. So this access time is much more. What about your address? Your address randomly rarely changes. So once it is put in the database, it may not change. In some cases, if it is your permanent address, it may not change at all for a very long time. So what is the number of times the records are accessed? That is also decided at the physical level. So let's summarize what is there in the physical level. So physical level is the closest to the physical storage area, and it provides a low level description of the physical database, and it is the one that interacts with the operating system, file system. So you have this operating system that has a file system, and we must know how the records are being structured. Okay. At this level, we are interested in what are the record types, what are the methods that can be used to store and retrieve the data, how the stored records are represented within the physical structure, whether it is sequentially stored, whether it is randomly stored, and what are the physical structure that exists within the system. That is all decided at the physical level. Now let's go to the next level, that is the logical level. So this logical level sits between the physical level and the view level. So let's look at that one. So the logical level describes the data that is stored in the database. So it describes all the data that you may have. So students data, marks data, attendance data, teachers data, salary data, and all of them are described here. So it's a logical view. It is not the physical view, it is just the logical view, how the things are arranged. Now all of us know that how uh, the what is the political structure in India. So we have the president, below that we have prime minister and its cabinet minister. In Karnataka we have, or in any state for that matter, we have a chief minister and the cabinet members, and we have somebody who is going to one MLA from our district, who is going to lead this particular district. Now, I have not told you about Prime Minister Modi or Chief Minister Yediyurappa. I have not told you about that. But I have given you the logical idea. So there is president. Who is that president? We are not interested. There is president. Below that president, you have prime minister. Now if I mention the name as Prime Minister Narendra Modi, then that becomes physical. I am talking about a physical person, but I am not talking about a physical. Now anybody can be there at prime minister's position. So the idea here is this thing. So we have the president at the topmost, the first person is president, then the prime minister. So this is logical level. So hope you get the idea between physical and logical. If you mention the name of the person, for example Sri Yediyurappa, so if you mention that, then it becomes physical. I am talking about the person, how he looks like, and what is his height and so on. That is physical. But logically there is a chief minister who is going to lead the state. The same way, in the database we have something called as a physical level, where when we are really interested in the inner detail. But this is not that. This is slightly a level above that, wherein we want to see all the data which is there, which is stored in the database, and what is the relationship that exists between that data. So for example, how a student marks is connected to student address or the course details, how there is a relationship. I am not talking about how the marks of Mr. Mahesh is connected to the BSc PMCS. So Mr. Mahesh and BSc PMCS, this becomes finer details. I am not interested. For any student, how that record is connected to the course which the student is taking, or how it is connected to the college in which the student is studying. So what is the relationship? This is logical. You look at all the data and you try to connect the details about the different pieces of data altogether, and this is called as logical level. Hope you get the idea now. What is this logical level? So logical level describes the entire database in terms of a number of relatively simple structures. So for example, there is a details of the student, there is a details of marks, there is a details of attendance, how they are connected. So this connection is described at the logical level. Okay. Now we know that finally the data has to be stored in some storage device, either disk or hard disk or anything that you store, that is physical. Okay. Now, one thing you must understand is when we talk about the logical structure, in hope everybody has studied about the operating system, we know that why do you have to make the different layers or the levels is if you make changes in one level, it do, if it is properly done, it will not affect the layer which is there on top of it. So if you make changes in the physical level, for example, if you change the from one hard disk to other hard disk, provided all the data is there, and if you change the structure, how the data is actually stored in the physical level, logical levels generally are not affected by that. So that is the idea of the abstraction. Now, sometime you take your television or electronic gadget to the repair shop, and your television, particular model, that circuit or some chips are not available. So, what the service person will do is they will not tell you that that thing is not available. So, what they will do is they will replace it with the equivalent component, not from the original vendor, but from the other vendor. Hope everybody has done this. I'm not very sure at your generation. Those who are using this Nokia phones, the battery, if it is down, and if you take it to the olden days, Nokia was there. Now you have many other gadgets. But if the battery of that Nokia is not available, so if you take it to the service center, what they will say is, I will put an equivalent battery. It is not Nokia, it is not the original Nokia battery, but some other battery they will put it. Now, this is what you've done is physically you've changed something. So physical structure has changed, but the mobile will work. Okay, so it is as simple as that. Sometime all of us have done, I'm very sure. So you get the mobile and you forget to get the charger. So what you will do, you will take the charger from instead of Nokia. No, Nokia is usually okay. Just to give an example, instead of Nokia, you use a Samsung charger. Now, what happens? The physical something has changed, but does it mean that your mobile is going to blow off? Now, again, if it is not meant for it, it may blow up, but otherwise, your mobile will function properly. So, if you make changes to the physical level, the logical level will not have an effect. And this kind of thing is called as physical data independence. So, what is physical data independence? Is nothing but if you make changes on the physical level, it does not uh, make any difference in the logical level. So, in other words, logical level does not need to know the complexity at the physical level, and that is what is called as physical data independence. Now, who is supposed to know the entire structure of the database, how the data is there, and how the things are there, and so on and so forth? These are the administrator. Now, you know who is supposed to know how the Mangalore University is working. So there is a chancellor who is supposed to know. Vice chancellor will be the responsible person to know how the entire university is working. Now he is not interested in whether you have not received your hall ticket, or whether your name spelling mistake is there. So that kind of details he is not interested. He will only ask whether BSc exams are going to be conducted this year or not. So you look at the level. So you are writing the exam. You took the sheet of paper, wrote your register number, you wrote the answer, and so on. So you are there at the physical level, but your vice chancellor knows that you are supposed to take the exam, but he is not. He is there at a slightly higher level. So again, get the analogy of taking the Google map. So it is like you are looking at the whole of Karnataka, where you can't see the buildings which are there in Mangalore, or the roads which are there in Mangalore, or maybe the trees which are there in Mangalore. You don't see the details, but you can see the overall picture. Now, who is interested in looking at the overall picture is there is a specific person called as a database administrator who is supposed to know what information must be there in the database and what is the way in which these informations are connected to each other. That is the logical level. Now let's go to the next level, and that is the view level. Now view is the highest level where the people who are using the database, they are not interested in all the details. Now again, I will give you an analogy. You are watching, hope some of you are watching at least. Nowadays people don't watch television because you are busy with your mobiles. But let's say olden days, when you were in high school, maybe in the primary school, when this Shaktiman and other serials used to come, so you are interested only in Shaktiman, and you are not and the other one was there, one Chinese cartoon was there. I don't remember the name. It was not there when I was a child, so also I can't remember that. But you are interested only in that Shaktiman, so that only Shaktiman serial will come at 4:30 means, so you will watch that. After coming home 4:30, if the Shaktiman start, you want that thing to be done. But what about your mother? Your mother is interested in some Sans Bahuki serial. And what about your father, who is interested only in news? He will come, switch on the television, switch on to the some news channel, and he is busy with the news channel. Now look at the thing there. Your cable, lot of data is coming. You are interested only in some cartoon and other thing. Maybe if your elder brother was there, he may be interested in the films and the fight scenes in films, and maybe the romantic songs which are there. And your mother is interested in Sans Bahuki serial, and your father is interested only in a news channel. Now look at the thing. Everybody has their own view. Okay, so the same idea is there. You have the database here. The manager of the company wants to see some data. The accountant in the company wants to see some data. The clerk wants to see some data. Now all of them are different. Maybe it is the same data, but they want it to be represented in a different way. Okay. Now suppose say you are working in a company. Why not? I will take your own example. Suppose in your case, some marks you have given it for revaluation. For you, it is a great thing. I have given my marks have come wrong. I am giving it for revaluation. Suppose if you are giving it, but just look at the registrar. Of, registrar evaluation, who is responsible for smoothly conducting examination in the university. For him, your it is not a great thing if you call him and say, sir, my marks has come wrong, sir, I was expecting 80 and I got just 80 is missing in that. For you it is a big thing. But what about the register evaluator? For him, how many such students are there whose marks are having some problem with the marks card? List of them. And he is not really interested in which mark, whether you got less in physics or chemistry or maths or other thing. That detail is there with you, but he is not interested. He wants to know from these people, how many of them have a problem. Now if you take one level up, we have the vice chancellor. Vice chancellor is even not interested in that one. He is only interested in what is the performance result. So it is slightly higher level. Hope you get that thing. Now at least you know that when there is some accidents or any mishap that is happening, if you watch the national channels like NDTV, Aaj Tak or anything, if something happens in Mangalore, and if you watch the local cable TV, 24 hours local television will be giving all the inside detail, very detailed. They will say which road, which flat, which cat, which dog, everything they will tell. If you watch Karnataka TV9 or other thing, such details they won't say. They will say that in Mangalore something happened. They may announce it 4 5 times, But if you watch the national channels like NDTV or Rajtak or many others are there, I am not here to advertise their channels. So if you watch them, they may tell once that such thing has happened in Mangalore. So look at the level, same thing, but different people are looking at a different level. So this level that we are talking about is the view level, is the highest level of abstraction, and in this only part of the entire database is shown, not the whole thing, the only a part of it, what you are interested, that is only shown to you. Okay, so we know that the database is used by many people, and not all of them are required to know all the information. For example, I have to know what marks you have scored, but I don't have to know what is your blood group. Maybe for some reason, for computer science, just to say that because I am a part of Red Cross, I may have to know, but that's a different thing altogether. But as a teacher, I don't have to know your blood group. That detail you might have given to university, but that has nothing to do with the computer science. Okay, so whether you're A positive, B positive, or something, that has nothing to do. So you might have given your family income to the Mangalore University, but am I supposed to know about your family income? The answer is no. It has nothing to do with a. To be very straight, it has nothing to do with a computer science teacher. You know your subject. How much marks have you scored in physics or maths? Or that has nothing to do with me. So, database has all the data. Not everybody is supposed to view all of them. So if everything is known to everyone, then this is going to be a bigger problem. So there are some information which should not be disclosed to everyone. Okay, for example, if you have a finance company, like you have the Reliance, which is a very big organization, what are the profit they are doing, what are the details, inner details, they did not have to do. For the same matter, if you take where is the location our army is there, is our army there near the border of China border, or are they located near the Pakistan border? As a general citizen, I don't have to know how many actual army persons are there, or how many navy persons are there. That details is known to someone, but it is not required to me. But I need to know that there is some conflict near the China border, and some conflict near Pakistan border, that I need to know, but not the inner details. Same thing is true when we talk about the database. There are many people who are using the database. Not everybody is really interested in knowing what data is there. So the view level abstraction gives what is really required. Okay, so you may have a given database may have many views, that every view provides different view to the different person. Now let's come back to the next one, and that is the instance of a database. So what is the meaning of saying instance of the database? Now we know that the data which is stored in your database changes over the period of time. So for example, if not anything, your age is going to change. So when you join the university, your age was say 16 years or maybe 17 years. Now it might have been 19 years or 21 years. So the data has changed over time. Okay, a given particular moment of time, what data is there in a database, that is called as instance of the database. Instance means at a particular moment of time, what information is there on the database. Now really you didn't get that thing. Now if you have your old photographs, the photograph that you took when you came out of your 7th standard, with all of you standing in a row near with your teacher in middle. So all this photo that you have, look at your face and compare that face with the selfie that you have taken today. Now it has changed. So the photograph that you are seeing is an instance of you when you were there in 7th standard, or maybe 9th standard or 10th standard or anything. At that minute when the photo was clicked, how you looked, and at this time when you are taking a selfie, how you are looking, that is an instance. So instance is that moment of time, what data is there in a particular database, and that is called as an instance of the database. Now let's look at one other concept called as schema. I will discuss about schema in the next class. Thank you for your input.